Rohan Patel, comic book movie. Hi, Gareth. How are you?
Hi, good, thanks. And you?
I love Jurassic World Rebirth. So I wanted to get started with the T-Rex river chase is, I think, one of the best set pieces we've seen in the entire franchise. So what was sort of the hardest part of bringing that to life?
I mean, thankfully, I had no idea that Spielberg had tried to do it, or at least started the process of putting it in the original Jurassic Park. I read the book when I was 16 because I knew Jurassic Park was coming out, and so must have forgotten it in 32 years because when I read the screenplay for this, it had the same sequence, and I've just felt correct. I felt, oh, this is it's kind of worth the price ticket alone just for this scene. And then when we were in edit, in post, we managed to escape for a first time out of the edit in like weeks. We went down the road when the shops were still open, and my editor Jabez bought a Making of Jurassic Park book, and he suddenly went, "Hang on, have you seen this?" And we looked, and there were storyboards of Steven Spielberg's version of the RAF like the RAF sequence, and it was I had no idea, and I'm glad I didn't know because it would have been too intimidating, knowing that Steven had taken a swipe at this and then given up. Obviously, back then, doing water was like virtually impossible, really. To do even a T-Rex was a miracle. And so it was just something that David Koepp and Steven both wanted to put in the movie. And it's a bit of a gift as a director for Steven Spielberg to go, hey, we tried to do this, but we couldn't do it back then. But here you go, you have a crack at it. Like it's kind of a film director's dream and nightmare combined, really.
Awesome. Yeah, no, it came out wonderfully, and I like you. Also read the book, so I've been waiting that for like 30 years.
Right.
And so when you shot a lot of the film, I think using 35 millimeter, and then there's a lot of practical animatronics. You're shooting on practical locations, and so what do you think that helped enhance the audience experience? And what was it, sort of that moment where you're watching it with an audience that you see people are reacting to the most?
Yeah. Well, I think we basically my silly little conversation with the crew early on was wanted it to feel like Universal Studios had gone into their vaults and dusted off an old reel of film, and it said Jurassic World Rebirth, and it was as if it was a movie made in the early '90s. And obviously Jurassic Park came out, so they decided not to release it, and they decided to release it in 2025. I wanted to have that kind of feel, that nostalgic kind of film language. So we shot it on 35 mil. We used Panavision cameras and old Panavision lenses that were the same ones that all those movies I grew up loving were shot on. Because I think that's, to me, that's the ideal cinematic look that I've always been chasing my whole career. And yeah, and I've forgotten, sorry, the other part of your question was
Oh, what was just sort of the like I don't know if you when you're watching with the audience, what was just sort of the moment that people are reacting to the biggest?
yeah, there's little, as a director, you think when the audience is gonna have a reaction, and it's always surprising when you've watched it for the first time with a proper audience, and it always takes you by surprise the things they respond to. And my favorite memory is I watched it the first time we ever showed the composer of the movie, Alexander Desplat. I ended up sitting next to him. It was totally random at this sort of friends and family screening where people tell you what they think. During the film, I just noticed more and more he just kept leaning forwards like this until he was fully forwards like this towards the end. And I was very proud that we'd had that effect on him. And at the end, when the credits rolled, he just turned around to me and went, "I've got to go home and got to start composing." Like I think it lit a fire under him. And so yeah, it's just watching everybody. Anyone who sits and leans forwards is like you as a filmmaker, you're like, yes, because there's definitely a moment in this movie where it feels like the roller coaster barrier comes down and clicks and off it goes, and it sort of doesn't really stop till the end. And so yeah, it's hard to have a favorite moment. It's like having a favorite child. I kind of was trying to make everything as good as each other, and so hopefully there's a lot to like. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, no, it's very edge of your seat, and I don't want to keep you too long, but when you're introducing new characters like Scarlett, Jonathan, and Mahershala, what was the kind of unique challenge that present? Because people have been so used to the characters from the previous six films, and then now these are completely different characters. So what kind of challenge did that present?
I think the biggest challenge is to make sure the characters don't really overlap each other and like they're not doing the same thing. I think our great reference, I know it was for David Koepp, the writer who wrote the original Jurassic Park, was the triangle of Jaws. and how those three characters on the boat all like intersected nicely, but there was conflict between them all. And so we were just trying to like, you, basically when you if you have just one character, they got to be like all things to all people. If you have two, they've got to be half and half. And when you've got like a triangle like we had, you've got to divide it even more. And David did a great job. I felt when I was reading that screenplay that was one of the things that really jumped out to me, even on the page, was how sort of specific everybody was, and you understood what they were trying to do and cared about them and enjoyed hanging out with them. Like one of the sort of surprises of the film, I think, that's maybe not shouted about as much in the marketing, is this family that's also sort of shipwrecked on the island with these experts. And I feel like, in a movie, there's normally like an A storyline and then a B storyline that intercuts with it. And I feel like, the family is also an A storyline. And every time it cuts from one storyline back to the other, you kind of go, oh yeah, great. I like these guys. I want to see what's going on with these. And then it cuts back again. Oh yeah, great. And so I was really proud of the fact that everybody, we had about 10 cast, at various times on this film, but everybody had their moment. Everybody, I liked everyone, and the actors themselves as well were great to hang out with. And yeah, I was very lucky.
Yeah, absolutely. No, you root for everyone by the end of the movie. And well, thank you so much for your time, Gareth. I really had a blast with Jurassic World Rebirth, so hopefully we get to see many more from you in a few years. But thank you so much.